It's Friday, May 26th, 2023. Okay, everybody, we are doing another special show where Lando is off. He is with his family in Legoland, sticking his head into large Lego versions of alligators and other creatures that I'm sure I'll get pictures of at some point. He's already sent me one where he is in the mouth of a large alligator that appears to be wearing some kind of red hat. So clearly he is a man-child like me and enjoys putting his head into Lego things. I think they're even staying in a Lego room. So, like, yeah, that must be a fun place to work where you can just build things out of Lego all the time.
That's awesome.
It is pretty awesome. So I've asked my lovely wife. Okay, I'm not going to try to do a Matt Berry impression. So I asked my wife, Sam, to do another show. We're going to talk about a show. Hello, Sam.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
So our other two episodes, we talked about shows that were done. This time we're going to do a show that's still being aired. It has at least 2 more seasons that they've said are already coming. But we also watched the movie that came out that it's based on, and that is the vampire mockumentary comedy, What We Do in the Shadows. And I've talked about at least the first 2 or 3 seasons on our normal show. I don't think I did a review of the 4th one. Lando hasn't watched it, so it's... this is yet another show where Lando doesn't watch it. So it's kind of pointless for me to talk about it outside of saying it's good or bad. It's not like a movie thing where I'm going to go through and do the whole, I'm not going to review a whole season where I'm saying everything that happens. So, but Sam and I have watched the first 4 seasons of the television show because that's out. The 5th season is going to be out within the next month or 2, I think. And it's in the summer. I know that season 5 is coming. Now, I had seen the movie around the time that it came out in 2014, the movie it was based on. But you had never seen it before. We just watched it about 20 minutes ago, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So Sam has seen it in reverse, where she saw the show first and then the movie. I saw the movie first and then have watched the show. So it's interesting how much stuff is the same from the movie to the show and how much stuff has been changed. So let's start out with comparing the movie to the show, because we just finished watching it. So what is the most interesting thing about what they took from the movie and moved into the show for you? I'm just curious, because we haven't talked about this. We have done no discussion of this ahead of time. We literally just finished watching the movie, fed our dog, and came right into here to record.
Like what they kept the same.
Yeah, stuff that you think that's interesting that they kept and changed over, like the characters, differences, that kind of thing.
Well, because there are definitely similarities between the characters, even though they're not like, they don't have the same names or anything, but some of the personalities are similar. And then like the beef with like the werewolves, that's consistent with the show. There are some things that definitely they took over.
So for anybody who hasn't seen, well, either, because it's possible people have seen the movie and haven't watched the show, or have seen the show and haven't watched the movie. The basic setup is the same. It's vampires, except that the location is much different. The show takes place in Staten Island in the United States. The movie takes place in, I believe the town is just called Wellington in New Zealand. But other than that, it's 4 vampires that are living in a house and have been living in a house for quite a while. Now, in the movie, it is... Okay, I want to make sure I get the names right. It's Vladislav, Viago, Deacon, and Peter. That's who the movie starts off with. Those are the four, what they call flatmates or housemates or roommates, whatever term you want to use, depending on where you are. That's the movie version. And then in the television show, it is Nandor, Naja, Laszlo, and Colin Robinson. The things that are interesting is that the three normal vampires are basically present in both cases, and then there's one basement vampire. But the basement vampires are radically different.
Yes.
In the show, Colin Robinson is an energy vampire, which that's not in the movie at all. There are no energy vampires ever mentioned, at least not explicitly. There's nothing like that you ever see. And then in the movie instead, who lives in the basement is Peter, who is kind of a classic Nosferatu. You said Jacob Marlowe, which I think is definitely what they're going for, like a mix of the old kind of black and white vampire.
From Salem's Lot, he looks like Barlow. Sure.
He does. Yeah, he's definitely kind of a mix of that very, very old version of a movie vampire and, yeah, kind of like a Salem's Lot character with the teeth and the eyes. And he is more of a... I don't think he talks at all in the movie. He kind of grunts a couple of times, but he doesn't actually speak.
No.
So he just kind of sits down there and they give him a chicken, but he doesn't seem to really do much for the most part of the movie. And then in the movie, Colin Robinson is, for some people, the most popular character in the show. So that's a big difference in terms of the fourth vampire. And then what I think it feels like they did was they took... Viago and Nandor are similar, except they used Vladislav's kind of warrior background and moved that onto Nandor.
Yeah.
So Nandor is kind of the stuffy, kind of, or like uptight, thinks he's the household leader guy, but his background is as a kind of pillager and all the rest of it, which is what Vladislav is in the movie. But then they took the kind of, the first time you see Vladislav in the movie, seems like he's having sex with 3 different female vampires, and they kind of moved that onto Laszlo's character. They made Laszlo and Naja kind of the other half of Vladislav, it feels like to me.
Yes.
Where they kind of split them out.
Right.
And then Deacon, that's the one. Deacon just comes off. There's no real direct Deacon type in the show, I don't feel like.
No.
Yeah, they sort of just replaced him with, I feel like, Naja and did a different character.
Sure. Yeah.
Because, yeah, he starts off as kind of a dick.
Mm-hmm. And
then as the movie goes on, they kind of soften him up a bit. He doesn't seem as much of an asshole as it goes on. And then they do have a familiar character, which is a female in the movie, Jackie. That became Guillermo in the show. And Jackie doesn't live in the house. She just kind of has her own life outside of it and just does the work. Guillermo becomes a part of the house and is, as much a part of the show as the rest of them are, if not, once you find out his background, becomes really important.
Right.
But the basic premise is the same, where they're, it's kind of all the ordinary stuff they have to run into and the fact that they don't always get along and their, kind of arguments and all the rest of it. Although the werewolf thing, that's an interesting bit because in the show, it's a very different kind of, the werewolves in the movie, they end up being friends with them.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually a big part of the movie. That part is really different in how it ends up.
Right.
They start off and fighting, and they even do the same thing where one of them throws a stick and one of the werewolves chases it. And in the movie or in the show, they throw it off a roof and he jumps off the roof after it. But then at the end of the movie, basically they're friends with them. They come over to the house and they're hanging out. So that's a lot different.
Yeah.
The way they changed that. But it's interesting how many things are basically rooted from the movie, and you can see where they decided to make, changes and use the same similar setups, like where his older girlfriend, where she's up in the retirement home, that feels like, okay, they changed that to Nandor's relative that he scares to death, but it feels like the same basic setup. And then, yeah, you were talking about the werewolf's knee thing, which is a reference to the show, because there's an older woman in the show that you find out that Naja had visited when she was younger. But I think the show really improved everything from the movie. The movie was a good base.
Yeah.
And it is funny, but it feels more like it actually has serious and kind of sad moments in the movie.
Yes.
And the show is just completely off the rails in terms
Hilarious.
of comedy. Yeah, it's just very funny.
She was a young, little, beautiful girl. Now she looks like an elephant's knee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, is that the Superb Owl? That's the Super Bowl
Yes.
party, right? Yeah.
Super Bowl party, but they call it Superb Owl. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I think we both agree that Naja is the best. Is probably the funniest character. We both like her the best.
She is so great.
What would you say? Well, no, I mean, we said Naja is the best one, but it's interesting how each season of the show gets different.
Mm-hmm.
Because it starts off, the first season is purely just funny.
Yeah.
It's all just comedy bits, and it's kind of just setting everything up. And the Baron shows up, and he's played by Doug Jones, I think is the actor's name.
Yeah.
Who people would know, but probably don't know his face necessarily. But he's played a million different creatures, mostly in Guillermo del Toro films. He played Abe Sapien. He's been in a million things as somebody under heavy makeup, and plays the Baron in the show. And so the first season is kind of him showing up and, the dynamics of the household. And then after that, the show gets more interesting because then it starts becoming more about the actual characters.
It's definitely changed. Like they're all kind of in different places, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's they don't feel like they have to necessarily even be in the same house. In season 3, they're broken up a lot of the time. Not broken up, but like they're in different places a lot of the time. Season 4 is when they get back into the house, but even that's a mess for a very long time. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the best way to kind of summarize it, because the first one feels like it's just a straightforward comedy. The second season,
we just watched all of it, so it's kind of blending.
Yeah, it all blends together. But I'm trying to think of an easy way to. It expands it past the vampires, because that's when you get the witches, the ghosts.
Oh,
that's
okay.
That's when other stuff shows up where it makes it bigger. Because at first, the first season feels like it's the vampires, werewolves, and you don't really get anything else.
Right.
It's really just that. And that feels like it's directly lifted out of the movie. So you hadn't seen the movie, but to me, I'm like, okay, they're basically taking, now that you've seen it, they're taking some of these big things from the movie and they're just moving them to TV.
Right.
And they're very similar. They make changes here and there, but they're largely the same. And the only really new thing in the first season to me was Colin Robinson. He's the only really new thing. Where, okay, that character and that type of vampire, we never see that. Because in the movie we see vampires, werewolves, zombies. They mention ghouls, but we don't ever see them. But that's really the movie. So most of the stuff that we see in there is covered. Because even in season 1 is where they have the orgy, right? The orgy's part of season 1?
Yes.
There's a guy who shows up and he's the Bada Book, which is the Bada Duke, which is a like ghoul type character. So even that's the same. And then when you get to the second season, it starts kind of branching out. And that's when we get, now there's ghosts. Oh, okay, wait, now there's also... Witches. The Witches episode is great. Then the third season is... That one feels like it's more of, okay, we're going to split everybody up a little bit and kind of get into each of them individually. Like get their, more of what's going on with them.
Right.
And then the fourth season is the most, so far, I would call serious one, where it feels like it's still funny. I don't know, there's a different tone to season 4, isn't there?
Yes. They're all kind of in different places and
like Naja's
doing different things.
She's running the nightclub. They've kind of split everybody into these little pairings. So Nandor and Guillermo are on his wedding, and then when Guillermo's boyfriend shows up, there's like, they're kind of by themselves.
And Laszlo's with baby Colin Robinson.
Yep. Trying to raise him to not be Colin Robinson again. Naja and the guide are running the nightclub. It works every time, but if you were to watch the first season and jump to season 4, it almost seemed like a different show to some degree, where you say, oh, did they change something if you were to jump like that? But it all makes sense as the show goes on.
Yeah. And Simon the Devious shows up, and I don't know if he shows up in...
He shows up in every season. Because he shows up in the first one as the nightclub owner. Then he shows up in the sewer. Is the sewer season 3? Hold on, let's see. I don't remember, because I
maybe
feel
not
like he's...
season. I don't think he's in season 2, but I think he's in...
No, he isn't. He is in 2. I don't think he's in 3. 2 is the return.
Oh, okay.
But then he's not... He is not in 3.
Season 3, okay.
Yeah, so then he comes back in 4.
Okay.
But yes, the season 4... I'm glad they left him out of 3. Because I kind of forgot about him.
Uh-huh.
with everything that goes on in 3. And even though I
Yeah.
know he comes back, and then once you get to the
And
episode
then
in
how
4
he
where he
comes
shows up.
back. Yes, that's right.
That's the what's that episode called? Is it called Flip something? It's got to be Flip something.
Go flip yourself.
Go flip yourself. That is one of the
like
best, funniest episodes, period, because that is so accurate. So for those who haven't seen it, sorry, spoilers all over the place, so whatever. That episode is entirely modeled after actual home renovation shows, to a degree where it's almost depressing how accurate it is, because it's perfectly done. And it's a very, very, very long setup to the fact that one of the people running the Flip show is Simon the Devious, who has taken the form of another person and has created a whole show and produced 100 and something episodes of it, just to be able to get to the point where he would get in their house to get back, once again, a cursed hat that Laszlo insists isn't cursed, even though it constantly is doing things that clearly demonstrate that it is cursed. And it's a great episode. That is probably one of the funny, if not the funniest episode of season 4.
Yeah. That one's really good. We just watched the whole thing, and I never felt like, oh, this, there's definitely funnier moments, but I never felt like I don't have like an episode that I don't like,
Yeah. There's no bad episodes, really. None of these are ones where I'd be like, yeah, I could skip that one. I mean, they're all
they're
really funny.
They're great. Like when they take the Baron out in season 1, and they get drunk and high on drug blood, and that episode is so funny. It's great.
It's interesting to having watched the movie. They really they amped up. Boy, I mean, it's you don't think about it, because obviously when I saw the movie, there was no show. That movie, when it came out, was a big, like, it was a big hit. It was very popular. That's one of the reasons I saw it, is because I said, this is a really funny, like, interpretation of vampires, because this was after Twilight and all that stuff. So, it was sort of burning out. People were getting sick of the vampire thing.
Sure.
And then this came along, and it was, okay, this is something funny, and this might be the thing that got Taika Waititi, started as far as somebody who could do Marvel movies and everything else. I think this was his first big hit. Yeah, because basically he had done 4 shorts, and then he had done a short called What We Do in the Shadows, Interviews with Some Vampires, which I haven't seen. That's from 2005.
Oh.
And then he did Flight of the Conchords, which I've never really watched. I've seen a little of it. It's a very musical comedy type of thing, which I'm not big on musicals, so
yeah,
it was never something I really cared about. But I think this was his big thing, because then after that, then Thor Ragnarok was the next kind of big thing he did, and he's directed a couple episodes of the show, and then did the Thor 4, essentially. But, yeah, this I think was the big thing. This and Flight of the Conchords. A lot of people really like Flight of the Conchords. Like I said, I've never really watched it. And that show he did with the guy who plays Vladislav in this.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's the two of them.
Got it.
But it is Nadja and Laszlo's characters. You can feel that they're not in the movie a lot. Like that absence is sort of there, because there is an energy to them that's missing.
Yeah.
And the movie's different. There are times where it's trying to be a more, not necessarily even it is still a comedy, but it's being serious too. The part where Peter burns to death is very straightforward. I mean, they're horrified by it. It's not played as comedy. He's,
right.
It's terrible when he dies. And then at the end, when one of the newest vampire's friend appears to be killed by werewolves, that's also not played as really comedy. It's almost a horror bit.
Yeah.
So that's where in the show, there's really no moments that are not comedic. There are serious moments, but there's always what were you talking about where you said that every time there's somebody delivers, it's like with Schitt's Creek, where every time there's something serious, there's a funny bit.
There's like a funny bit, yeah.
It's not quite the same as that, but it sort of is, where the humor, there's always humor to things even when they seem serious.
Yeah. Like with Schitt's Creek and The Good Place, like I could be in tears and then laugh like 2 seconds later, but yeah, those shows definitely do that to me. But yeah, this show definitely doesn't. In the show, like the Baron catches on fire, but they're all screwed up on drug blood, so like they don't even know what happened. They don't know how it happened, and it was an accident, not
it never
not as
allows itself to get
serious
too
as the movie.
serious.
Right.
Yeah. For me, the city council one is probably, which is the second episode. I think that one is, everybody
Great.
is funny in that in different ways, but that is one of my favorite episodes because I think the entire city council stuff, everything that goes in there, including the possession of the one guy, that is hilarious.
Yeah.
I think that is it demonstrates Colin Robinson going to city council meetings is such a great way to just show what he does.
Yeah.
You sit there and go, what would this character do? Because he doesn't have to sleep during the day. He can do anything. So he's just around. And this is the kind of shit that he does. He goes to a city council meeting just to rile people up so that he can suck all their energy out.
Yeah.
And then that gets in with Nandor and the Baron saying conquer the whole new world, and Nandor possesses a guy and doesn't realize that he's overdone it. So the guy doesn't, the idea is they try to get involved in local city politics and they don't do it right. Laszlo kills a bunch of raccoons and dumps them on the doorstep of the city council leader, thinking that that's going to make her, follow what he does because he has no understanding of how humans work. And then Nandor possesses the guy who is seen as kind of her direct competition for the council to head the council. And the guy goes insane and is talking about, people are going to die and I'm going to kill you and rip your balls off and feed them to your family. And meanwhile, Colin Robinson is soaking up so much energy that he can't stand up because he's got a massive erection. And in fact, what I noticed this time when we watched it, which I don't think I've ever noticed before, is if you watch carefully, right before they all get up and leave, there's a scene where you see him kind of with his mouth open, sucking all the energy up. And Laszlo looks down at his crotch and sees that he's got, it's really quick, but I happen to notice it. I saw Laszlo looking down at his crotch like he noticed what was going on. So I'm guessing there was more to that bit or something, but he's definitely looking down at his crotch to see what's going on. So he must notice something had happened there. So that one for sure is one of the
that's great.
The better ones.
Yeah.
And then the Baron's Night Out one is too. That one's a good one.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah.
I also like the animal control one. That one is very funny, where Laszlo gets taken in bat form, and so they're trying to break him out of animal control. That one's funny too. There aren't any that I don't not like, but I just the little bits, like because Nandor and Colin Robinson go to try to get him out, and just the Colin Robinson just gets under their skin so much, and it's just it's hilarious. And then Nadja comes in and saves the day, and just gets him out, no big deal. Nandor tries to help him, but then he gets captured too.
And that's the first. Oh no, that's not the first one, but that's the one where she's hanging out with Gregor at the fair.
Yes,
which is also a highlight because her whole thing with him is with the popcorn, and she can't stand his human name because this guy, whose name is actually Jeff in the modern day, because the series takes place in the modern day, but this is a person who has been who's reincarnated multiple times throughout Nadja's life and is kind of her secret lover, although we find out not so secret. The Laszlo and Nadja's whole thing with their being married, they both seem to be worried the other person will be jealous of something they do, and yet they are very free about the fact that they will fuck anything. They play around with that idea, which to the degree where I think that's the joke, is that they don't realize that there's no point in them being jealous because they're both doing the same things all the time. Right. And sometimes they care and sometimes they don't. Yeah. Which is really the witches thing which is to jump ahead, but there's a bit where you find out that Nadja hates one of the reasons she hates witches, because she hates them all the time, but there's this particular witch who she hates because Laszlo slept with her. And he says, well, I didn't know it was you. And she says, yeah, like it was a bullshit story. And the witch is like, oh, no, he didn't know it was you because I took your form. And she doesn't believe her, and she says, "Oh, here, I'll show you." And she turns into a woman who is vaguely the same,
Just
but not the same.
Dark hair.
Yeah, and a bad European accent. And the joke is, what do you sleep with anyone who's got dark hair? And yeah, and he said, what, do you sleep with Nandor?
Or European accent?
And she says, did you sleep with Nandor? And he kind of looks at her and he's like,
Well, she has dark hair. Did you sleep with her? Hello, Judith.
Then,
yeah.
Hello, Judith. Yeah. And then she's like, piss this. And she fucking vanishes. And then Guillermo has to bail them out. Yeah. But that brings up one of the things I like best about the show, which is, I don't, do they do it in every single season? I know they do it in the first one. Nandor's devotion to Naja is excellent.
Yes.
There are all these little really great moments where
Wait, you mean Laszlo?
Oh, sorry, what did I say?
Yeah.
Nandor,
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Laszlo's devotion to Naja is exceptional. So you find out at the end of the first season, because Gregor breaks out of the psychiatric ward he's in and shows up at the house. And, and Naja comes out and she's like, "Oh, I don't want Laszlo to see you." And Laszlo comes out and says, "Oh, who's this?" And he's like, "Hey, don't I know you?" He's like, "Yeah, you should. I've cut your head off in every fucking life you've ever lived." And then it's flashing back and it's showing all these pictures that we had seen close-ups of. And then when it's zoomed out, the person decapitating this guy has been Laszlo every single time, in human form and non-human form. Like the whole way he's been killing this guy off.
I could do this all day.
And Naja says, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, because every time he shows up, you get all sad. And I'm here to stop that." So he's like, "So fuck off." And he's not going to kill him, except the guy rides a motorcycle through a rope that's been set up and cuts his own head off. So, of course, now he's dead again. Yeah. And then I'm trying to remember each, because they make a point of it. I think it's in every... Maybe they don't do it in season 2. Let me look, because I want to find this, because this is always one of the things I always like best about... I mean, Laszlo's hysterical. Matt Berry's fucking national treasure. Good. But I'm trying to remember... Oh, so then when, at the end of season 3, there's a thing where now that Colin Robinson is dead, everybody's starting to leave, and Laszlo's like, "Well, I'll never go back to England because I've sworn never to go back there." And that's a whole thing where he keeps saying, no. And then, but Naja knew about why that he swore it off, but didn't know why. And he says, "I'll tell you why. It's because they didn't like the fact that I married a girl who was a peasant girl." And he's like, "So fuck England, because I love you. You're my wife, and I don't care about them." And she's like, "Oh, but we can go back and rule the whole country." He's like, "Oh, well, then I'll go back." But I love the fact that he goes into this whole story about the reason he will never go back to England is because they didn't like the fact that he married her.
Yeah.
Because all this shit, Laszlo comes off as the biggest jackass at times, and I don't give a fuck of all of them.
Right.
But when it comes to Naja, he's always 100% behind her. Whatever, man. And I mean, he's great anyway, but that's the best part of that character, is that there's multiple times where he's shown to be at her back, or to get her back no matter what, which I love.
Right.
I know there's
they are so great together. And she is phenomenal. She is so fucking funny. I mean, they all are in their own ways, but she just runs away with it for me, because she doesn't give a fuck, and she's hilarious.
Yeah, I think she is. We both said she's our favorite character. I mean, I really just cannot imagine the show. It would still be funny, but it would be missing something huge without her in it.
Yeah, she's fucking great.
I mean, her whole bit with the you look like an elephant's knee, because she's talking to this woman at this Super Bowl party that she had seen when she was younger, and she's being really nice to her and saying, "Oh, how are you doing?" And then she sees a picture of her wearing this necklace that was her mother's necklace, and she instantly screams, "You motherfucker," in her face, and then she just starts tearing the whole fucking house apart, and it's a riot because she goes from very nice to just savage in 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best parts of the second season. I think I would put that there, and the Witches one. The Witches one is great. Oh, and the one where they do the songs together. That's a great one too, because The second season, the one where that is probably my favorite season of all of them, because that's got the Brain Scramblies one, which is the Super Bowl party. Then it's got the one where Laszlo leaves when Mark Hamill shows up.
Yes.
The Jackie Daytona stuff, which is hilarious. Colin Robinson's promotion is in that one, which is a great one. The one where they sing together at the club.
Like you give a shit.
Like you give a shit. And then the Witches one, which is really good, because again, you're getting more of the stuff. I like the Ghost one too, because that's the whole gag of that is Colin Robinson trying to get somebody to say, "What's up, dog?" And nobody will do it until he summons his own grandmother just to do that, and then immediately dismisses her. So as soon as he delivers the joke, he's like, "Yeah, okay, well, I'm really busy, Grandma." And he just like knocks her ghost back out. So 2 is probably
Great.
my favorite of the season so far, because that one is, and the first one has Topher.
High five.
High five. We just seen him in Silicon Valley, so he'd shown up in a couple things that we just watched. Yeah. Yeah, and then season 3 is, of course, where they get on the Vampire Council.
Because they were supposed to be killed because the Vampiric Council, they killed.
How did I skip over that? I skipped right over that.
Yeah. So in the end of season 1, they were supposed to be killed, and then Colin Robinson and Guillermo end up saving them. So then in season 2, it's recurring where all these vampire assassins are coming to kill them. And then Guillermo has Van Helsing blood, so he like is a vampire hunter, but he wants to be a vampire. It's great. So in season 3, they become like the Vampiric Council, because they basically, Guillermo killed all the vampires, or a lot of them.
And that has Taika Waititi showing the character has a different name, but he's basically playing the same person. I mean, I don't think he's got the same. I don't think his name is Viago in the show, but for all intents and purposes, he's playing this. I'm looking, but he's playing it the same way. I mean, essentially, he's the same guy, and so is the other guy. I'm trying to find.
That one where the show where they go in front of the Vampiric Council is so funny. Where the Vampiric Council, where they bring in all the old the vampires from like different shows, and that one's a good one as well. I forgot to mention that one. And
there's a direct thing right from the movie there where Viago is dressed as Blade. It's like, you can't dress as Blade. Blade's a vampire. It's like, yeah, but everybody loves Blade, and then everybody loves Wesley Snipes, and then sure enough, in the Vampire Council, one of the people that's on it is Wesley Snipes, who's supposed to also be Blade. They call him Wesley, but they also say he's a daywalker. Right. So he's supposed to be both, which is fine. I don't care, but it makes no sense. But that's a direct reference back to the actual show or the movie where they talk about the fact that he's dressed as Blade and that everybody loves Wesley Snipes.
And they all look like vampires that they played in, like Paul Rubens is like, he was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie, so he looks like that. Danny Trejo's there, like, that episode is, I kind of forgot about that one, but that one is great.
Yeah, well, that's the more I think about this, where I'm picking out, there are no better episodes. They're all really good in different ways. I mean, this is probably.
Oh no, I'm looking at the thing. He is Viago in that one.
It says Viago. Oh, that's it does. Oh man, that's even better. That he's is the other guy playing the same one too?
Vladislav, yes.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
Yes. Yep.
Now the little guy next to him though, that's not Deacon, is it? Is that Deacon? I don't think that was the same guy. I think that was a different guy. No. Okay, I don't think so. I thought he had a different name, but I don't remember now. Even though we literally just watched this. You know what?
Let me.
I'm looking at the movie thing, so I'm going to click on that guy's name.
Yeah.
And see if he was in the show. Oh, he was in Thor 4.
No, he is Deacon. Yeah.
Wow, it is the same guy.
Yes,
holy shit!
Guy.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is the same guy.
Oh, that's wild that they're playing the same people. I mean, I knew they were acting like the same people. I just didn't know if they were playing the same characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I never really pay attention to when they're saying their names. I'm just like, oh yeah, look, it's them.
Right. Yeah,
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they are the same.
Oh, that's yeah. There's no bad episodes of this show.
And then one thing I wanted to just mention when they, because they're talking to Wesley Snipes on Skype, and so they're like, so they have a computer set up and he's calling in on Skype and he's like sunlight. They're like, look at this guy in the sunshine, and well he's half vampire. Danny Trejo says, I'm only gonna listen to half of him then. And
I'm gonna listen to half of him then.
And then there's a lag, and throughout the whole thing there's a lag, and so he's like, he's always behind in what's going on, and then like Danny Trejo's like, move your computer closer to your router, Holmes. Like, oh shit.
And then is it Paul Rubens? The Skype is glitchy.
Yeah.
The Skype is glitchy.
And then they bring in Guillermo. They're talking to him for a while. Then Wesley's like, who's this motherfucker
now? Is this lunch? Oh, Wesley, we're past that. We're past that now. Oh yeah.
This show's fucking great.
I've many times in the show said my favorite Marvel movie is Blade. It's always going to be Blade. Blade is fucking awesome because Wesley Snipes is awesome in that movie, and that is still my favorite fucking Marvel movie. And the fact that they brought him into this.
Yeah.
Which and I haven't watched the movie. It's got to be going on 10. I mean, probably.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Well, it can't have been 10 years because it was on 2014, but it was definitely at least 5 or 6 years ago was the last time I saw it.
Yeah.
Because I watched it a couple of times.
Okay.
But I forgot all about the Blade bit. I forgot completely about the thing. I remember him dressing up. I didn't remember that it was Blade, and then I didn't remember the line about, well, everybody loves Wesley Snipes, which, is true. But I had forgotten that line, so that's even better.
Yeah.
Because, they brought that right into the show. And then they've had good guest stars throughout this thing.
Oh, yeah.
They have, of course I forgot his name. Wong from Doctor Strange is in the first episode of season 2 as the Necromancer, of course I know him from, and so do you, from IT Crowd, is the guy who does the underground, what is the game show called? You're a fan of Tiny Biscuits. Countdown, yeah.
Yeah.
So, he's the guy in Countdown who's dressed like Morpheus from The Matrix, and he's the Necromancer in this. It's a small part, but it's great because I like that guy too. He's very funny. I can't remember his name, but I know who he is because he's been a bunch of...
Benedict Wong.
That's it.
Wallace.
Wait. Yeah, Wallace. Yep. Yeah, he's in the first one. And then Mark Hamill is great as the vampire who's owed money for a rental unit from Laszlo in that episode. And they even do a bit where, for a second they're holding two pool cues as lightsabers, and then they break them in half and use them as crosses, and then both drop them. And then wasn't there one more guest star in that, or was it only those two? Well, Nick Kroll comes back, which is Simon the Devious. Yeah, maybe there's the only two for that one. And then they have Donald Logue comes in the third season. The third season has a bunch of people. It has It's Not Ice Cream Cake guy, David, what is that guy's name? David Cross, who a lot of people would know from, what's that show called? Bob and something. I can never remember it. And then the guy who plays Topher.
Haley Joel Osment.
Joel Osment. That's it. Yep, that's it. I don't remember if there's anybody else from that, but they have good people that come in that are funny. Season 3, the casino episode, is probably one of our favorites, I'm sure.
Yes.
Because of the setup for the gag with the boxing match where a guy is supposed to I think he's supposed to just knock the other guy out, and instead hits him so hard his head flies off and goes into the crowd. The siren one is pretty funny. The wellness center one is great, where Nandor leaves and goes and joins a fitness club where, supposedly they have figured out a way to take vampires and make them human again. And then Guillermo is really good too. I like that guy.
Yeah.
The whole thing they set up with him, where he and Nandor seem like at some point they'll just end up dating. I mean, that almost feels like that's where that's going to end up at some point.
Yeah.
Because they seem to be in love with each other, even if they're not really saying it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if that's where it's going to go, but it seems like it probably should end up there at some point.
Yeah.
Because he sticks around even though Nandor has... They have done a good job of having Nandor go from really not giving a shit about him to slowly being more caring about him. He's gotten a little bit more every couple episodes. Nandor seems to care more about Guillermo as opposed to just as his employee.
Yes. And he realizes it more, and he'll like make a point to say it, where in the first season, I'm not going to tell you thank you, I'm not going to tell you shit, you know, like, yeah, definitely he appreciates him more for sure.
In that first season, there's that part where he says, "You are my friend," and then immediately makes him forget he said it. Because like, yeah, that didn't feel right. He's like, yeah, forget I said that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's a point where I think he does say, "You are my best." Oh, he says your best. He says friend. He's like, no, best man. But he does call him his friend at a couple of points, I think.
Right, he does.
They also do that with Nadja too, where they make her just barely care about Guillermo when his family shows up and she's going to kill them all. And she stops and goes, you know, I know how it was when my family all got killed in front of me and died, so I don't think he should go through that. That wouldn't be nice.
Right.
It's like, whoa, Nadja was about 2 steps from killing him for the first couple seasons, it seemed like at points. She didn't care at all.
No.
So they've definitely grown Guillermo into a more important part of the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just looking through this, and I mean, there are funny bits for the Gale episode where Nandor is dancing naked, singing Bob Seger. I mean, there's just all this little stuff. Everybody gets to be funny in different ways. And they all do feel like they're funny in different ways.
Yes.
They're not all just doing the same thing.
Yeah, this show is so good.
I am curious how many seasons they're going to run this thing for. Because we've talked before, you and I have talked about there's a point where it's like, okay, you got to end this thing.
Yeah.
So they've already said there's going to be season 5 and 6.
That surprised me. I thought that maybe like this would be a good time to be like, okay, because it's already like it's transitioning, and it's which I guess is good because you don't need it to just be the same, you know. But at the same time, what else are they going to do? So 2 seasons, I think, would probably be enough to where maybe they should just be like, okay, we should stop now.
Yeah, there is going to be a logical point. I mean, it is the one thing it does that I think is smart is the seasons are not particularly long.
Right.
So there's maybe 10 episodes per season. Looks like there's 10 or 11. So it's not, you know, it's not 24 episodes long like a normal sitcom, so that's good. But the thing at the end of the 3rd season where they were all leaving the house, that sort of feels like it would inevitably happen. Mm-hmm. At some point they leave.
Yeah.
And that doesn't last long at all. I mean, it didn't even last past the first episode of season 4 because they come back almost immediately. And I thought we were going to get maybe half a season where it was just Laszlo and Colin in the house.
Yeah.
And instead they're back right away.
Right.
And then they separate, so they still handled it well because they were able to kind of move everybody around. But I was kind of surprised that didn't last longer. So yeah, I don't know that it can go much past. I mean, whatever, it's funny. There are shows that can go longer than that. I mean, Frasier was 12 seasons.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it probably could have been 9, but still, 9 seasons is a long time. You could have trimmed some of that down, but it still was pretty funny, especially, you know, when it got towards the end.
Right.
And
that's one thing that the 2 shows that we've, you know, talked about, well, like with Schitt's Creek and The Good Place, it's like, well, we haven't talked about The Good Place yet, but I mentioned it before. It's like those shows set out, they had a story they wanted to tell, and then it was like, okay, we're done. You know, even though they wanted them to keep going, and the people that made the shows made such a good environment, I'm sure everybody wanted to keep going. But they, in like The Good Place's case, it was like, no, this is the story I wanted to tell. Like, we're done. Because and they didn't sacrifice the show to just keep making more episodes, and I really admire that because they could have kept going, but he didn't want to. That was the story he set out to tell, and he told it, and then he was done.
I have a hunch I mean, not that I know anything, but this is just a guess. The fact that they've already renewed it for 5 and 6, they're probably, I mean, if you know you've got a season 5 and season 6, you can write the stuff for those 2 seasons.
Yeah.
My guess is that they are, depending on how 5 and 6 go, 7 might be the end of it.
Okay.
That they'll do 5 and 6, they'll set something up for 7. They could even do a short thing. That's what they did with 30 Rock, because 30 Rock in its last season, it was shorter. I think they had half the episodes or so that they did for the other seasons because the ratings just weren't there. And so they were allowed to finish the show, which they did, but it was a shorter season. So what I wonder is, okay, they're doing 5 and 6, and they're going to look at how it looks at that point. And if it's still very popular and people think it's still as good as it's been the whole time, then they'll probably maybe keep going past the 7. But if they see it and they're like, right. And plus, a lot of times the actors are going to get sick of it. And they're going to say, all right, we've been doing this for a long time. Let's wrap this up.
Right.
So it may be that 7 ends up being the last one. I mean, the fact that they announced 5 and 6, if it was going to end in 6, they would have said a 5th and 6th final season. They wouldn't just say 5 and 6. They would have said, oh, okay, what we do in the Shadows is going to end in season 6. We're going to do season 5. Season 6 will be the end.
Right.
But they haven't said it that way. They're just saying that everything is saying renewed for seasons 5 and 6. But I don't see anything that indicates. The quote from the guy, the president of FX, is there's a lot of life left in our favorite vampires from Staten Island. Excels on every level. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that doesn't make it sound like they're going to end it at 6. We'll see.
Yeah.
But they'll probably use 6 as a way to gauge it. And what they may do is they'll put season 5 out, and if the ratings seem like they're starting to slip, then they'll make 6 be the end. They could do that too. But my guess is, if I had to guess, knowing nothing, I'm guessing 7.
Sure.
And that's kind of a lot of shows end in season 7. Season 7 is kind of a common. 5, 7, those aren't unusual for shows to end. So
Parks and Rec was 7, right? I think. Or
no, I think. Let's see.
no, I think it was 6. I think
was it 6?
Maybe.
Yeah, it might have been. I'm looking it up now. It's 6.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. It's no 7. That was 7. You were right. 7. But 7 was a short season. 7 was only 13 episodes, as opposed to the rest, which were, I don't know, however many there were. So no, it was 7. So Parks and Rec was 7. A bunch have been 7. There have been a bunch of series that have ended at 7. That seems like kind of that's what I'm wondering about is, will 7 be a short ending where they kind of tie everything up? Might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a great show. We both agree there have not been any bad episodes in this thing, which for a modern show is sort of remarkable. Anything else you'd like to say? Because we are approaching an hour that we've been talking about this.
No, I know I didn't talk a lot on this one, but it is a great show. We laugh out loud at this show a lot, and it's just, you should watch it if you haven't, because it's fucking great.
And I would say watch the movie too. The movie is it's a good movie.
Yeah, the movie was good.
Yeah, it's not the same as the show. It's not quite like that, but I actually like looking at the movie and then realizing what they kept and what they left out and what they changed. I always think that's interesting because the opening is nearly identical. I mean, the opening is basically they reuse the opening credits thing. Same song. It's much longer in the movie.
Yeah.
But probably the only credit song that we don't skip. I think this is the only one where we don't skip the intro on it because the song is great and the opening is great. And that's basically straight from the movie. And a lot of the elements are the same, but it is interesting to see the two of them relatively close to each other and see what changes they were made, which I think improved in the show. I actually think that the show is a funnier piece of comedy, but I do like the movie too as kind of this template for what they took and ran with. And I like everybody I hesitate to say this because it could be really stupid, but it wouldn't exactly bother me if the 3 vampires, or whatever, 4, whatever they want to do, if the characters from the movie showed up more in the show in some way. I mean, they've showed up as part of the council, but I wouldn't mind an episode where somehow we got to see where they are now, all these years later. Almost like Guillermo is interning for the documentary crew, and they're like, well, we heard about these other vampires. Let's go. Guillermo says, I'm taking a trip. I'm going to get as far away from here as possible for whatever reason. I'm going to go to New Zealand for a couple weeks, and then ends up working for them. Where he's helping them out because they have a temporary shortage because, I don't know, whoever's working for them got killed by another vampire or whatever, and they need like short-term help. And he's like, well, I've come to New Zealand for vacation, and I ran out of money faster than I thought, so I'm taking a part-time job working as a familiar with 3 vampires. And then he's in there with them.
Yeah, that would be great.
I would enjoy that. I don't think there's any chance of that happening, but I wouldn't hate it. Let's put it like that. So
yeah.
But yes, if you haven't watched the show, it is very funny. And I think the movie is worth watching too, because it's a nice comparison piece. And like I said, now that I know they're actually in the show, that's even better. I really just never paid attention when they were saying their names. Because I was kind of like,
I hadn't seen the movie, so I didn't catch that they were the same, because you told me that they were the same actors, but I didn't know that they were the same characters because we just watched the movie just now.
And it makes sense because they look, they're dressed, all their hair and everything is exactly the same.
Yeah.
So that it makes sense that they were playing the same people. I just didn't know, because sometimes with movies and TV shows with the rights, you can't reuse. You can't use the same names. They have to change names.
Right.
It's like famously in the Red Sonja movie, even though Arnold Schwarzenegger is clearly playing Conan, they can't call him Conan, so he's got some stupid other name, even though he's fucking Conan, and it's very obvious that's who he's. It's so asinine what they have to do sometimes. But whatever. I'm not going to go on a rant about fucking Red Sonja now. But anyway, the show and the movie are both worth watching. What We Do in the Shadows, it's really good. Movie or TV form, both excellent. And then at some point, we'll probably watch Wellington Paranormal, because that's the 2 cops that are in the movie.
Oh, okay.
They're in the show. They built the show around those cops who somehow never seem to notice that there's supernatural shit happening constantly around them. So basically the bit they did in the movie where the cops miss all the obvious stuff that a normal person would see.
Yeah.
That's the whole show, where they're called out, and like there's a werewolf running around. They're like, oh, is there a wild dog? Is there a dog running around here? Yeah, because there's a lot of scratch marks over there, So they built the whole show around that. And and I've watched some of that, and it is funny. I like it. But it's the same exact actors. So the people who showed up in the movie is the female and the male cop. They're in the show, and it's all built around them as these 2 bumbling cops who don't seem to have any idea what the hell's going on around them. Even when there's just blood fountains coming out of the street and stuff. They're like, oh, that's interesting. Is there a pipe backed up somewhere? Yeah, must be. So, well, thanks for coming on again, Sam.
You got it. Anytime.
So we'll do Good Place next. And then at some point, I'm not even gonna name the show, because I only told Sam about it today, and I have to see if this is actually gonna work out. But there may be an episode about a show that I won't have much at all to say about, but I will be very entertained by. So we're going to try to set that up. I don't know when exactly that'll happen, but I am aiming to have a very special episode, especially if you're a 90s fan. That's all I'm going to say about it now. So it's a nice tease. I don't know exactly when, but I'm going to start the process on that, because I guarantee and Lando will not be on that show. I promise you. No. But
I'm surprised you're going to be on that show.
Oh, no.
You'll make fun of it.
I will be. No, I won't necessarily make fun. I like watching discussions on things that I've never really watched myself. I enjoy hearing people talk about stuff. I will probably have commentary on some of the more absurdist elements of this particular program. Sure. But I always like to say, not everybody has to like the same stuff that I do. And I can delight in other people's enjoyment of things that I don't necessarily understand. It'll be like when Ron Swanson saw the guy in the health food store and just kind of observed him and said, wow, nature is amazing. Yes, it'll be that kind of thing. So that's fine. So yeah, we're gonna try to arrange that at some point in the near future.
Sweet.
And that's it. So What We Do in the Shadows, it's really good. No bad episodes, great characters. The movie's excellent as well. It's a little different. So you can watch them in either order, but I think both of them are worth seeing because they're different versions of the same kind of... And I even more now like the fact that they're playing the same people in the show, because that it means that those characters can coexist. I kind of like the fact that they're all in the same universe.
Yeah.
So that's great. And that's it. Everybody, have a good weekend. Go watch. I assume it's just streaming probably on... Hold on. I like to tell people where they can watch things. Where can you watch it? It's on Hulu, which is basically FX is the same thing. You can buy it on Amazon, but you know what? Just get a free 30-day trial to Hulu or whatever and watch it on there, and then you can cancel it. Who cares? Or if you already have it, watch it on there. And then the movie I think you can only rent on Amazon, which is kind of a bummer, but I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, it's $3. It's definitely worth a $3 rental.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm looking to see if it is streaming anywhere that you can watch it for free. It was for a while, but it isn't, I don't think, anymore. It is, it's $3 on Prime. Yeah, that looks like that's it. So, but like I said, $3, it's definitely worth $3.
Sure.
Very, very worth $3 rental. Go watch one of those things this weekend. It'll make your weekend better. And we'll be back next week with our regular Lando and I bullshit 2 hours of nothing, rambling, who knows what. That's it. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.